chose the film Wonder to talk about Portrayal of Disability. Wonder is a film based on the New York Times best-selling book Wonder, and so it came out in 2017, and basically the movie follows the main character Augie Pullman as he goes through his first year of school in 5th grade. Before this, he was homeschooled, so he's transitioning to being mainstreamed in public education. And so Augie is a character who has Treacher-Collins syndrome, which is a genetic disability that basically made him have a facial deformity. He previously had to get some surgeries to help him see and like hear without hearing aids and different things like that, but he still has a noticeable facial deformity. So the film documents his first year of school. It starts right before 5th grade. He's getting like a tour from some other students, and then it goes through that entire year, and then it finishes out at his 5th grade graduation. So the film shows his experience just kind of transitioning to school. It shows things like him getting bullied and what effect that has on him, and also like what effect all these new things in Augie's life have on his family. And it's a really interesting dynamic, but it overall just kind of shows his experience transitioning into public school as a student with a disability, and it just documents that whole first year and what he experiences and how his experiences also affect him and also his family and the people around him. So that's pretty much what Wonder is about.
Syndrome is the syndrome that Augie had, the main character in the movie. It's a genetic disorder with an autosomal dominant gene. In Augie's case, both of his parents carried this gene, so he had it, but he also has a sister, but she didn't have it. This can be seen as anywhere from being a mild disorder or a severe. Complications may include breathing problems, vision problems, cleft palate, and hearing loss. Augie underwent multiple surgeries to help to eliminate some of these complications. He underwent vision surgery, surgery with his hearing, and also with his breathing. This can cause deformities of the eyes, the ears, cheekbones, and chin, which made it hard for him in public and in school because people didn't understand, and at his age they just didn't understand what he went through. He was just they would just stare at him and kind of be afraid of him. The syndrome does not affect a person's intelligence. Augie was really good in science, so he really enjoyed that.
I'm going to be talking about the negative and positive perception of Augie in the movie Wonder. There are many negative perceptions of Augie in the movie, and I'm going to give you some examples of what these perceptions were. But first, I'd like to tell you what negative perception is and how it can affect other people. Having a negative perception is basically having an immediate thought or idea in a bad light about someone else. Having a negative perception is something that we cannot do as people, as human beings. Now let's get into the movie and have some examples of negative perception. Julian, a 5th grader, thought that Augie was an ugly, annoying person and just a freak in general, and was consistently bullying Augie just because of the way he looked. Examples of this was when he dressed up as Darth Sidious for Halloween and likened himself to Augie. Another example of this was when he drew Freddy Krueger on a piece of paper and threw it at Augie and said that that was him and what he looked like. The worst thing that Julian did in his act of bullying was when he cropped Augie out of a photo and said there was no freaks allowed and basically told him to kill himself. Obviously there was no need for this and the bullying had to be stopped. Another example of the perception would be all the people at school stopped and stared at Augie just because of the way he looked. It wasn't only his disability that he was bullied for, but also because he was homeschooled. and he was homeschooled, I assume because his parents didn't want him to be bullied or made fun of when he went to school just because of the way he looked, which ended up happening anyway. The students also came up with a myth that when you touched Augie, that you would get the plague. There were also a lot of positive perceptions of Augie in the movie, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about that too. A positive perception is basically the opposite of a negative perception. So having a positive idea or thought of another person. So some examples of this was when Mr. Tushman welcomed Augie to the school. He didn't say anything about his face or the way he looked, and just invited him into the school and welcomed him like he would any other student. Another example of this would be when Summer, another 5th grader at Augie's school, came up to Augie when he was sat alone at lunchtime and sat beside him and said she wanted to be his friend. Although Jack Will said some nasty stuff about Augie at the beginning of the movie, he also became Augie's best friend, and he came to realize by getting to know Augie, he was a very nice kid and just like any other kid. Obviously, his mother and his father and his sister were very supportive of Augie and told him that he should be confident and he shouldn't allow any other people to hurt him in any type of way. A quote that I liked in the movie was when his father said that he missed his face and he loved his face after Augie was constantly walking around in public with the astronaut helmet on. This just shows how positive his father was, and also his mother and sister.
Throughout the whole entire movie, you could see the amount of stigma and barriers towards him and how much he had to overcome them in order to have success. First of all, he was homeschooled because he was frightened to go to regular public school because of his face deformity. So his mom started to homeschool him, and around I think it was the 5th grade, he was introduced to public school for the first time, and he said that the first day was his hardest for him because he faced very, very many people and peers his age that always looked at him as different just because of his facial deformity. So he always kind of had to overcome that. People, like he was always seen as different. All the children never wanted to be friends with him. They always explained that he had the plague if they were to accidentally touch him. He was kind of like an untouchable in the caste system in the Middle East. It's like nobody wanted to hang out with him. No one wanted to be friends with him or do anything like that. And so throughout the entire movie, you could see the barriers he would overcome, his educational barrier with the school and homeschooling at first, and then more educational barriers as he got into school because of the children there always harassing him about how way he looked. So there was this one kid named Julian that was always picking on him. He was a constant bully, and he was always photoshopping him out of like the school pictures and writing him notes telling him to kill himself and doing all these other harmful things, not necessarily to, I guess he wasn't being that nice of a person, I'll just say that. So eventually Julian gets in trouble with the principal. Principal takes him down to the office, and his parents come in, and Julian's explaining that he did this and he feels really bad for it. And the principal says, which I consider to be the most meaningful quote in this whole movie, he says, "Augie can't change the way he looks, so maybe we can change the way we see." And that really stuck out to me because that's kind of how we portray disability in our class. It's not how they look, it's how we need to be able to perceive them even though they have a disability. Even though I don't consider a facial deformity to be a disability, it still is, because they still face hardships throughout, like in the movie, throughout the whole entire plot. He was always having to overcome hardships with his peers and other things like that.
Talk about the models of disability that were
that we watched. The first one that I'm going to talk about is the biomedical model. Augie was born with a medical impairment that caused him to go through 27 surgeries in his 10 years of life. These surgeries helped him to see, hear, breathe on his own, and do many other things that he originally wouldn't have been able to do without all of these surgeries. He has a medical impairment and a physical deviation, and he was in need of plastic surgery. And even his friend Jack in the movie asked if he could get plastic surgery just to fix the way he looked, but he had already had it. So there was really no way of changing the way he looked to make him look more normal, like in a society standpoint. The students were objectifying Augie and what he looked like, and they didn't really understand why he looked the way he did, just because he was so different. There was a dominant view of like the Western world and how people should look. So people, mostly in America and in today's society, believe that certain people should look a certain way. And just because Augie looked so different, no one really understood like why he was like that. And these kids were so little, so they didn't really understand. According to the model, treatment should reduce the impact of the way Augie looks, but there's no way of completely making him look normal. Even in the movie, one of the parents said that these students shouldn't have to go through the impact of the way Augie looks just because he's so different, but he feels like a failure and he feels left out, and people don't want to touch him because they think that he's going to get that, because students think that they're going to get the plague from him, so they think he's like contagious. Another model that we mentioned was the eugenics model. Augie's parents both carried a gene that caused his Treacher-Collins syndrome. It's very rare, and even in the movie, I think his sister said that Augie pretty much won the lottery backwards. That's how rare it was. He's unfit for society because he doesn't look like everyone else. He gets made fun of by the kids in his school. There's no more treatment or intervention that he can go through, so he'll look the way he does for the rest of his life. He's pretty much dealing with all of this, and the model mentions survival of the fittest, and I think that through this, he's going through like social survival of the fittest. And in any other country, or if he was born to any other parents, he could have been terminated or left to die. He was a burden to the kids in his class, especially when they played dodgeball and no one really wanted to be his friend, so he was like kind of untrustworthy to them. He had an individual defect and he's neglected in society, but not in his family. He's segregated and he has the stigma put on him that he's sick or contagious, and he was even told by his school bully that he should die.
The social model of disability talks about how society is the main factor in discriminating against people with disabilities. The person who is disabled because of the way society views them and the limitations they impose on the person with a disability. So in the movie Wonder, the main character Augie has a deformed face. So as a result of his face, he's ostracized from society and doesn't even feel comfortable enough leaving his own home without having an astronaut helmet on. In one part of the movie, his best friend Jack's mom talks about how before, when she was at an ice cream shop with her younger son, Augie and his family were there, and her younger son broke down crying and was afraid of him in his face. So that incident just shows the way that Augie's face ostracizes him from other people. Also in the movie, Augie is bullied badly by a boy named Julian and all of his little friends. They cropped him out of their yearbook picture, they called him a freak, they gave him notes saying that he was just like ugly and just like didn't deserve to be where he was. They only targeted Augie because of his face, and they just tortured him throughout the school year. Even when there was a parent-principal conference, Julian's mom tried to defend her son's behavior by saying that it's Augie's issue that his face looks like that and they can't change the way society sees him. It's just something like, get tougher skin. And she tries to defend her son. Augie himself doesn't look at himself as a kid with a disability. He just is tortured by other people because of the way he is. He meets every other kid in criteria for everything else besides his face. And another model of disability, the culture model of disability, it views disability as a part of human diversity. In the movie Wonder, Augie never gets shunned by his family for the way he looks, and his mom gives him so much love and affection. For up until 5th grade, he's homeschooled just because his mom tries to shield him from all the pain that'll come from having to be in a regular elementary school and to get bullied. Because in the culture model of this disability, it doesn't view the kid with the disability as the problem. It just views the way he gets treated as the problem. So the mom always made sure Augie felt confident enough about himself and tried to do her best in order to make him not view himself as different or just view his face as like another part about him and just who he is as a person. And then at the end of the movie, he is awarded a medal, basically just for waking up every morning, going to school, and just doing everything else every other 5th grader does. It does, even in the movie, Augie talks about how he doesn't know why he deserved this medal because he's just like every other kid. He just got up, did his homework, went to school, and to himself, he's normal. It's just the way society puts limitations on him that makes him different.
I really enjoyed the movie Wonder for like a lot of different reasons. First of all, it was a feel-good movie, and it did have a happy ending, so that was appreciated. I also liked how not only Augie's perspective was included in the movie, but also his sister Via's. It was brought up how she gets pushed aside a lot because of Augie's multiple surgeries and how the parents have to kind of put their attention on him and not necessarily try to like ignore Via, but like she's also going through her teenage years also, so she needs some attention as well. I also like the part in the movie where it was just Augie and Via in Augie's room, and he was talking about how he was having friend problems because his one friend, he caught him like talking badly about him, and at that point Via was also going through some friend issues with her friend like not wanting to talk to her anymore after summer, so they kind of like had that in common and made him realize that he's not the only one that's like going through these things. I also liked how he overcame multiple obstacles throughout the movie, one of them being how he went to a public school and not just like staying with his mom and being homeschooled, so that was a big thing to like go through. I also liked how his safety was his helmet that he would always put on, so that you couldn't see his face, and he didn't need the helmet anymore throughout the movie because he was becoming more comfortable and he was getting friends and making friendships along the way for like who he truly was, and he didn't need the helmet anymore. So I liked those parts.
One thing the film did well was it showed disability from multiple experiences. It didn't just give Augie's perspective, it gave the perspective of his sister, his friends, his sister's friends. And I think that's really important because disability, like while there is one person who has a disability, that's not the only person who's affected by the disability, and it kind of shapes the experiences of the people around them as well. And I think the film did a good job of showing that, but not like overemphasizing that or over dramatizing that and making it a huge deal. It balanced that very well.
I really liked the movie Wonder, and I thought it did a good job portraying all the problems a person with disability faces in their everyday life. I feel like Augie did a really good job of just overcoming all the problems he faced, and it gave like inspiration to other people with disabilities who might feel down on themselves or like they're the issue, and it helped to show them that you're not the issue, it's the way society and other people perceive you. I thought the acting was really good in Wonder. I thought you could tell that the actors and actresses cared about their roles, and I thought the movie did a good job of just showing everyday life for the families of a kid with a disability and like how their lives changed to help accommodate them, and kind of the jealousies that can arise in the siblings of kids with disabilities because they might get more of their parents' attention and they will like be more of the center of their parents' focus just because they have to do certain things to help accommodate them and their lifestyle.
Yeah.
You survived 5th grade, won a medal.
Sure.
Yay! So thankful for your quiet strength.
I'm so glad I made it through 5th grade. But I disliked the ending, the award that he got for like doing well in science and like finishing 5th grade, because all the other kids also did the same thing, but he was just acknowledged because it seemed like because he was different and he underwent like more obstacles than everyone else. So I didn't like that too much, but also when the principal like made 3 like of the kids of his grade be his friend on the first day of school, whether they really wanted to be or not. I didn't really like that either, because that's kind of setting Augie up to fail. Like, he should be able to make his own friends, and people shouldn't just be forced to like hang out with him or be friends with him. So overall, I really enjoyed the movie.
Augie doesn't deserve an award simply for existing, okay? So at the end of the film, they're at the 5th grade graduation, and Augie gets an award for his silent strength and whatever. Basically, he gets an award because he was able to complete the full year of school, even though he was bullied and it was a challenge, which I think just kind of completely discredits the entire existence of the fact that he is trying to just be a normal kid and trying to just have a typical life, and this makes him seem exceptional when all he did was go to school. So yeah, it's a cute Hollywood ending, and it's a cute like, oh, this will make you feel good, but it's inspiration porn at its finest. Augie's not exceptional for going to school. Augie's not exceptional because he was bullied and like dealt with that. Like, people without disabilities are also bullied, and maybe people with disabilities are bullied more, but just because you can handle bullies and go to school doesn't mean you're exceptional. It just means you're a kid. The one thing that really bothered me about Augie's character was his geniusness at science. Like, I think there's this narrative that people with disabilities need to have something that they're really great at, and that kind of like makes their character appealing, but that's just, first of all, completely false, and second of all, they don't need some material thing to be appealing. Like, why can't they just be a cool character because they've got a great personality or something like that? So I think that using Augie as like a great like student in science was an attempt to make his character like have this super great appealing thing about him, but like I think like they also used him liking Star Wars. Like, why couldn't him liking Star Wars be more of a thing than him being great at science? It just, can he please just be mediocre? Like, people with disabilities can be mediocre, they can also be geniuses. And like, I just think it would be really cool to see more mediocre disabled people on television, because the idea that someone with a disability is really great at one thing, it's just not right. It's not accurate.
The only thing I didn't like about Wonder was that the actor who played Augie didn't have the disability in real life, or any disability in general. They could have given that role to a child actor with a disability to help make more of a statement and show, yeah, like, we portrayed a movie about a kid with a disability who overcame the odds, but this is actually an actor with a disability who can act in a movie just as well as a kid without a disability.
But I think the greatest shortcoming in this movie is their failure in casting. The main character, Augie, was played by Jacob Tremblay, who, plot twist, does not have a disability and does not have a facial deformity. Wow. Wow, Wonder, wow. So, in the 2018 Oscars, Wonder was nominated for Best Hairstyling and Makeup. They get an award for making a non-disabled actor look like he had a disability. What a time to be alive. Wonder tried to really be a like groundbreaking film for disability and really tried to like get all their portrayals right and everything, and they really tried, and they had really high ratings. But Wonder will never be a good movie because the boy playing Augie didn't have a disability, and that is not representation. That is not at all representation. And so Wonder's kind of just a big disappointment. So what did you think of the movie Wonder?
I thought it was really cute. I think they did a great job with it, yeah.
And how do you think they did portraying disability?
I mean, I don't want to speak for people with disabilities, obviously, because I don't have one, but I thought they did a good job portraying the struggles that he went through. So overall, I think they did a good job.
Awesome. And how was there any part of the movie that like stood out to you or anything?
I'm not really sure. I mean, the ending was cute and heartwarming. I think it was cute when they gave the little kid an award, but just little things like that. Yeah.
Thanks.
I thought Wonder was a good movie, but I definitely preferred the book.
I really liked the movie Wonder because it portrayed disabilities as not a burden. I think in the world that we live in today, people who we find are different than us or act different than us or look different than us, we sometimes think of them as being a burden. And in Wonder, it kind of talked about how living with a disability is sort of an everyday thing, and people who have disabilities are capable of doing everything else that someone without a disability has. And I remember the one part where his friend kind of turns his back on him, and it was just heart-wrenching because us as the audience think, no, he's a valuable person and we need to treat him with love and respect, and just because he looks different than us does not mean that we should treat him any differently. I think my opinion on the movie is it was done really well, and I think it was something that we needed to hear. And I remember watching it with a friend of mine, and we were just rooting for the main character so badly because we just all realized that he has value and he is important, and it was something that I think we all need to see right now, where there is such a divide in people who look different than us or act different than us, and it just showed that just because someone is different doesn't mean that we need to treat them rudely.
Becca, what did you think of the movie Wonder?
I like the movie Wonder because it's a realistic view of what children who are different go through when they're in school.
In my opinion, it was a really good movie. I started to empathize a lot for Augie because of the way that he was able to go about and stay strong. Nonetheless, all these bullies kept just coming after him, and he was able to make friends, and those friends were able to see that he was actually a good person behind, even though he had like a facial deformity, he was still like, they were able to see that and be able to communicate with that. And I think that's what is the most important thing here, being able to understand somebody behind their first identity, like their first perception of you. You can see them, how they act after that. I think that this movie was good because of the way that it portrayed his disability. It didn't necessarily make him a bad person, and that's what the kids were understanding. As soon as they got past his facial deformity, like the one kid said, the first thing he noticed was his face, but after that it was really easy to get past that. And for some reason I don't understand how that's important, because I don't think a facial deformity should dictate the relationship you have with somebody, especially if they're a deep, kind-hearted person like Augie was in this movie here.
I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really cute, and it was really it was good for like as a family movie. I liked how the movie changed points of view and how we all got to see how Augie's disability affected those around him. I also liked how we were able to learn about other people's problems that they were dealing through throughout their lives. I thought that disability was portrayed well in the movie because, like, Augie was bullied in school, and pretty much anyone, I'm sure, who has a disability like that would get bullied like that as well. But I didn't really like the way the movie ended. Augie received a medal for his quiet strength, which I do agree he had. He was bullied and tortured throughout his school career, but he even said it while he was walking up the stage. All he did was pass 5th grade, so he didn't really do anything that special. But it was then that he realized that he wasn't ordinary and he's unlike anyone else that he's ever known. He accepts himself as who he is, and throughout the movie he wears an astronaut helmet as his security blanket because it covered his face and no one could really see who he was. And he even talked about how much he liked Halloween because he was able to wear a mask then and cover his face, and no one could see that he had this facial deformity. But by the end of the movie, he didn't need it anymore because his dad actually hid the helmet and told Augie that it was lost, and he didn't need his helmet anymore, and he was able to stand in front of the school just how he was, and he felt very proud of himself to have been able to go through school, and he even thanked his mom for allowing him to go to school.
So I'm just going to talk to you guys about what I thought of the movie and get into that a bit. So I thought the movie was pretty good. I did think that the kid staring at Augie when he first came to school was a pretty accurate representation of what kids would actually do. I think that kids are young and that they would definitely stare, not knowing what they are actually staring at. I think that kids don't know how to use or hide how they feel in that particular situation just because of how young they are. I do believe that there are bullies in the world and people do get bullied because of the way that they look and other things. And I thought the seriousness of Julian telling Augie to kill himself is a real issue that some kids face today. And I thought that was a very good representation, and I think that needs to be dealt with in schools across the world, basically, because it is a real problem. I also noticed that, like some of my other group members, that the actor that played Augie actually didn't have a disability. He didn't actually have Treacher's Collins syndrome. That could cause a little bit of upset among people that with disabilities, just because why didn't the movie cast someone that actually has Treacher's Collins syndrome? Overall, the movie's goal was to inspire people with disabilities to be confident and that they can overcome whatever life throws at them. I don't believe that it's a bad message, but I do believe that people with disabilities know that they can do everything and anything that other people without disabilities can do, given that they have the accessibility. Augie passed 5th grade, and the movie implies that it's very, very special for him to do that given his disability, which isn't the case. That's something that I do not agree with, but overall I think that the movie was a decent movie, but it could be improved in some aspects that I just mentioned.